tried to map out here for you is to take several paths of action and put them together, because this is more than likely what typically takes place. We don't just see and hear, tell a story, feel, and act. When we act, the other person sees us acting. They then tell a story about it. They feel and they act. Ever been going down the road and somebody practically takes the bumper off? What's your reaction? Blessings on thee, go thy way? Probably not. You may question their ancestry. You may signal that they're number one in your book. I don't know how you handle it, okay? But we tend to do this fairly rapidly. Let me share with you a story that may illustrate this. And this comes from my personal life, my family life, actually my son's life. And he's given me permission to share this story with you. And he came home a number of years ago and brought his fiancée home. And so we were getting to know each other, and one afternoon he came to me and he said, "Dad, I am absolutely starved. Can we go to Don Pablo's, my favorite Mexican restaurant?" And I said, "Sure." So we all pile in the car and we're heading down to Don Pablo's, and I can hear him in the back seat as we round the corner. I hear him say, "All right." And I knew what he was doing. He had surveyed the parking lot, and he'd figured that the parking lot was half empty. Therefore, when we get into the restaurant, we'll be able to do what immediately? That's right, be seated. And he was interested in chowing chips and salsa immediately. Well, we get in and we walk up to the receptionist, and she informs us that it's going to be about a half an hour before they can seat us, even though most of the restaurant is empty. Now, that doesn't make sense to him. And so he's kind of mumbling and grumbling, and we're talking a little bit about it. And the 20 minutes goes by, and she comes back, and she gets us, and we're now being seated. And I look around, and I notice a new waitress. Now, we go to Don Pablo's enough that most of the waiters and the waitresses know the Nelson clan, and they know we can put away a lot of chips and a lot of salsa in a very short period of time. So they all initially bring 2 or 3 baskets of chips and salsa to the table. New waitress. Doesn't know the Nelson clan, and I could see the storm clouds on the horizon. So let me walk you through this, because my son's path of action is in the blue. The waitress's path of action is in the red. Let's walk through this. So she brings a very small container of salsa, small basket of chips. He's ordered water that evening, and literally within a minute and a half, we have finished off the meal, as it was at that point. And he sees the waitress approaching the table. He's sitting on the edge of the table, and this is what he does in terms of acting. He reaches over and he pulls the empty salsa dish, the empty basket, and his empty glass now to the edge of the table. That is what she sees. And in a nanosecond, she then tells a story. It drives a feeling, and she stops and she looks at him and she acts, and she says, "Listen, bucko, you want more chips and salsa, don't shove the basket at me, got it?" And he hears that, tells a story, drives a feeling, and he acts, and I'm holding my breath because I'm not sure what we're going to get here, friends. Now, he doesn't do anything. And I'm saying to myself, unbelievable. He'd been gone for about 1.5 years working with Colin Powell Volunteers for America, and I'm thinking to myself, the emotional maturity in this young man is just phenomenal. But I spoke too soon. The minute she brings back chips, the minute she brings back salsa, and the minute she sets his cup down on the edge of the table, he picks the cup up and he chugs the whole thing right in front of her, sits it down and smiles. She looks at him, looks at the cup, grabs the cup, takes it back behind her little counter, fills it up again, and comes back by the table as she's going to take the order from the table next to us. Doesn't say a thing to him, simply sets the glass on the edge of the table, at which point he immediately picks it up and he chugs the whole thing again. So when she is done with the order, she sees this empty glass sitting at the edge of the table. See what's happening here? They have both told stories about each other, and it's driving behavior. She comes back, grabs the cup, takes it back. Now, she does a little calculation this time because she figures she can get more volume of water in the glass if she dumps the ice out, which she does, sets it on the edge of the table, and goes to 2 tables over to take the order. He immediately picks it up, and he chugs the whole thing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, where are we headed? You're right, to the bathroom. He's going to have clean kidneys. Now, the interesting thing is they both ended up engaging in a very interesting form of behavior. They both committed something that we call the fundamental attribution error, and you and I do it all the time. We fundamentally make an assumption about someone else. We jump to a conclusion, and that conclusion then begins to drive the rest of our behavior. And we found victim, villain, and helpless mentality. In fact, when we got out to the parking lot, this was still going on, the fundamental attribution error. Now, when your son becomes 25, 26, you become more of a friend and mentor, less of a parent, if you please. So I walked up beside him, and my wife and future daughter-in-law were a little bit ahead of me, and I simply put my arm around him, and his name is Stacy the second. And I said, Stacy, and he said, immediately, I know, Dad, I know. I let her push my buttons. And I said, Stace, I don't think so. I said, I think you pushed your own buttons. And I said, I'll admit this was an extremely challenging situation for you to handle. And when you consider the genetic inheritance on the side of your mother, it is even more of a challenging situation. Just kidding. I unfortunately see a little bit of this in my own life that's being passed down. The fundamental attribution error. We tend to assume the worst of other people.